second date, no tongue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome in. This is the Broccoli Horror Picture Show featuring Kristen.
Emma.
Nick.
And today we're talking about Hellboy, the 2004 comic book adaptation, comic graphic novel. And now, in my mind, the only version of Hellboy that exists. Because have I watched it before we had to watch it for this? No. Do I think Ron Perlman is the only choice for Hellboy to ever exist? Yes. And I guess to get the ball rolling, I chose this film because it is a film I have never seen, and that is the theme for the next few movies we will be picking.
Woo!
I have always been interested in Hellboy from a auxiliary or ancillary perspective of, hey, that sounds like a movie I would like, and just proceeded to never watch it. I also did not know, and or if I did, completely forgot, this is co-written and directed by Guillermo del Toro. And that is yet another thing where I sat down after the movie and I was like, again, why did I never watch this? Because I love Guillermo del Toro films.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like a real silly Billy.
And it had everything you wanted in a movie, and you never watched it until now.
It was, from synopsis to end credits, everything I could have wished for. And I never pressed play before now. So I want to know, going into it, if you guys had seen this beforehand, if you hadn't, what your first impressions were, or your first impressions the first time you saw it.
All right. I had not seen this. I don't think I knew about this movie's existence until the one with David Harbour was being made. As a Stranger Things fan, I was mildly interested in that. Didn't see that one either. Which I guess I'm glad, because I saw that Rotten Tomatoes score on the 2019 one, and I don't think that I missed much.
It's rough.
I am glad that I never saw the David Harbour one, and I'm glad that I went back and saw this. I didn't even know it was Guillermo del Toro. I only started to think it might be when I thought Abe looked like the creature from The
Shape of Water.
Correct. I almost said The Sound of Music.
Featuring Doug Jones.
And when I saw Abe in this movie, I looked it up to see if it was Guillermo del Toro. And yeah, that was those were my first impressions of it.
I'd seen this movie on TV, so I'd caught it definitely in passing more than I've sat down and watched it. I knew it was Guillermo del Toro, and it's a very funny watch without knowing, I feel like, because this movie stylistically doesn't have to look like this, and not knowing that he did it makes it very funny what's happening.
Yeah,
you kind of get these the opening, jumping in a little bit, but you kind of get that opening tone setter with the rainy night in World War II, and without knowing it's Guillermo del Toro, you're like, what movie am I starting to watch right now?
Yeah. You feel like it's a noir film, but
yeah, literally.
Yeah,
you definitely do. You don't even know. This movie is simultaneously so of its time in the 2000s, and also could have been made in the 70s. And it would still have the same feel and kind of look to it. There's clearly edits throughout this movie that they just didn't take their time with and just let it ride. And it's very funny, but it's just kind of adds to the allure or the appeal of it. But yeah, I mean, I hadn't watched it closely, but I am very glad we went back, and this was a choice for this podcast, because it's one of those movies that has Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah, which we'll get to him. I read a fun fact, not fun fact, but like I read a fact that he showed up 2 weeks before they started filming, or no, maybe a few days. I don't remember, but he was a last minute addition because whoever was supposed to be in that role didn't show up. They just didn't come
Just
to
didn't
filming.
come.
Very apocalypse
So,
now.
yes. And I saw another fact that was like when they first signed on to do this, Hugh Grant was attached to the project, and I was like, I guarantee you it was 100% Hugh Grant that did not show up.
Oh my god, it definitely was.
So that's my thought on that.
Or Hugh Grant was Hellboy and he couldn't hold it. He couldn't take care of it.
No.
Hellboy is
It took
so
them 7
funny.
years to get Ron Perlman as Hellboy because studios wouldn't take him. They wanted a known actor, and Vin Diesel was in talks to be
Oh,
either
that would have been
Hellboy
horrible.
or Abe. Yeah,
Or Abe.
Hellboy
Vin Diesel is either
flying
one.
around.
as
Vin
either
Diesel is
one.
both. That
I
would have been terrible.
I think any other casting for anyone would have been so disgustingly terrible. I think they did. They knocked it out of the park with it, and it again adds to the movie's charm. So, jumping into the plot, this felt like the Mummy, the opening of the Mummy to me, because holy exposition dump.
It was a long intro to this movie.
I looked at I did what Nick does, and I looked at the clock, and we do not see adult Hellboy until 25 minutes into this movie,
Yeah, that's big.
which is wild because he's the namesake of the movie.
Yeah.
We start, of course, during World War II, as you do, with the Nazis, Gregory Rasputin. Okay, we still following. They're trying to build and open a portal off the coast of Scotland, intending to free the Jesus Christ, Abdru Jihad, monstrous deities that are imprisoned in deep space. Huh? All right, so the Nazis are trying to free Cthulhu. Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a team is sent to destroy the portal, guided by a young Trevor Brutenholm, who is called Professor Broom, and the Nazis are killed, the portal's destroyed. In the beginning, this is all, again, within 5-10 minutes. And they say, Broom says, oh, the portal's been open too long, something must have come out. And the thing that comes out is Hellboy. And it's a little baby Hellboy. They call him a red ape at first, which is kind of mean, but
We don't know no better.
we don't. It's the 40s. And Broom gives him a Baby Ruth bar. Were they called Baby Ruths before they were they always Baby Ruth bars? Maybe I'm just dumb. Gives Hellboy a chocolate bar, and then he hops into his arm, and we hit a montage into the future and into Hellboy. I need to mention also, there is a cameo, not cameo, the soldier who is with Broom in this scene when they find Hellboy is one of the 6 idiots who are a BBC comedy group. They wrote BBC's Ghosts. They were in Horrible Histories. He's in my mind, this was a wild cameo because I looked at that screen and I said, that's Jim Howick. Why are and he's doing a funny little American accent. I don't know why. I just thought it was crazy.
What a cameo that means so much to you and absolutely nothing.
And nobody else. I wanted to look around my house and be like, is anybody else seeing this? And again, even if anyone else was home, nobody would care. It's just me. So,
but that's joyful. You deserved it. You deserved that cameo.
It is. And if anybody else loves BBC's Ghosts as much as I do, and not the American version, I'm not talking about that, they'll love it
Doesn't exist
as well. So
I love I
Go
love the
ahead.
idea in all of this like opening chaos. That's the big takeaway of this like insane this movie that's you would sign up for like a comic book movie and you get a ode to if the Rasputin lore were real. And Kristen's like, but did you see?
But did
I
you binge?
I feel like I had to pause the opening so many times because I had to sit back and go, what? Huh? What? Rasputin is such a wild card pick to pair with the Nazis in my mind. But did they cross over? Did I miss something in history?
No, Rasputin died in
Way
the
before that.
19 teens. Yeah, before World War One, I think, because it was the Russians weren't in World War One because that's when the Romanovs got killed. So I think he died around that time too.
Yeah, my
Um,
knowledge of Rasputin is that he's the villain in Anastasia. He is maybe almost responsible for the Romanov deaths, but who
yeah,
am I to say? He's a little voodoo guy in that movie.
my knowledge of him is raw, Rasputin.
That's took the words out of my mouth.
My
Just
knowledge
Dance
of
2?
him?
Familiar?
um
Did you see those girls that did the dance every single day for like a year and filmed themselves doing it? I don't know if
Wild.
I don't know if I recommend it, but did I watch them every time they came up?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Drop
Yeah.
the link in the description of this episode. We need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, send it to me.
I'll find no idea their names. I'll find it.
So yeah, that's the wild opening sequence. I will say I do love the choice that the gods in this film and the otherworldly stuff is very Lovecraftian and
Mhm,
like Cthulhu based. I
mhm.
think that's really fun
Yeah.
and a different spin on heaven and hell. Because I mean, in my mind, you just think like, oh, it's going to be angels versus demons for a movie like this. That's what I thought I was
Yeah.
getting going into it. So that was refreshing.
Yeah. I agree.
Um, let's okay, moving on. Now we're 60 years later. Quite the time jump. And what the hell is this? Oh, John Myers. All I keep thinking is his name is Myers. He's a young FBI agent who is transferred from Quantico to the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, or the BPRD, at the request of Broom, which we find out once they meet. And he pulls up to this giant gated facility and it just says like waste management on the gate,
Mhm.
and he gets like the whole scanner, like scans his eyes and everything, and then they let him in. I I hesitate to think that waste management is the best cover up for it. But
Very mob.
Very
very
mob.
mob.
Um, I
It's
think
too
up to
obvious.
yeah, I think up to this point you get which is like a lot of my gripe with this movie. You after that intro, you get a crazy amount of jumping around because you get the like Rasputin scene, and then you get like that has a lot of jumping within it already, where they're like jumping from that group into the blood into him because he got sucked into the portal and he's getting resurrected, which like is already a kind of whirlwind
He
start.
randomly makes his lover immortal somehow.
Yeah, in a little like to the side comment, he makes her immortal. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of just like time on like that intro, a crazy amount of time spent on that intro, and a lot of time spent on like random conversations, and then certain things are like, all right, we just got to get through this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said with waste management, it feels like it's just like this is a detail that doesn't even really need to be there, but we're really jumping around that we're spending random amounts of time on this little pad to get in the door here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
so
it's
weird.
also they were like, well, they really have to know why when we pull up in a trash truck later, why they're in a trash truck.
Yeah,
I like those two
Yeah.
details,
true.
they don't need to be that focused on.
It's so true.
They're details in another universe where you just would have cut to them immediately in a vehicle and then out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. I think there are certain points where stuff is over-explained and then under-explained.
You know what this movie gives me the vibes of? Like, it was definitely on FX a lot.
That's what I think I was
Mhm.
catching it. I think I was
Mhm.
scrolling through channels and I would see it and it'd be like a commercial on some like a sporting event and I would just be like, all right, turn it on in between.
It's
Mm.
such an FX like Friday night at 7 movie.
It really is.
Mhm. Yeah, and where I had a thought, it's gone. Hey, don't worry about that. So, John Myers goes into the BPRD, walks in, it's, like, very almost like Empire State Building lobby when he walks in,
Mhm.
uh, and somehow he walks directly onto the spot he's needed to walk that becomes an elevator to bring him down to Broom's office, or I guess vault.
Blair.
Lair. I don't know what to call it. We're definitely deep underground at this point, and Jonathan. It's his name John Jonathan. We know so many Jonathans that I keep.
I would
I
call
think
him-
it's John. I think it's John because when he's talking to Liz about their names being common.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like he's Myers most of the movie.
That's what I was just gonna say. I'm gonna go by Myers. Myers then goes into the lair, office, vault, whatever you want to call it, and meets Abe Sapien, who
Mhm.
in this movie, in this first film, is played physically by Doug Jones, but is voiced uncredited by David Hyde Pierce. And to this day is not credited because he wanted to respect and give credit to Doug Jones for the amount of physical acting he did. So he didn't go to their premiere or anything. It's just kind of known now that David Hyde Pierce was the voice for this first film, and then Doug Jones did the voice and acting for the second film, which very interesting.
That is
And
interesting.
listen, he
like High
spent
School
10
Musical.
right.
Like
He spent
Bruce
10
Willis.
hours every single day getting in and out of that makeup. So, I mean, more power to him.
Yeah, 10. Oh my god, I didn't even think about
5 to
that.
7 getting in, and then at least 3 getting out. And sometimes they would leave pieces on him overnight so that it would be easier to put the costume on the next day.
Wait, I just looked up. He plays the creature in Shape of Water also.
Yeah.
Guys, I didn't know these things. That's wow. What a career he's had playing underwater man.
And he was so good in The Sound of Music.
He was so.
Oh my god. He was also in Crimson Peak, which is another Guillermo del Toro film that I love,
Ooh.
which we will have to do at some point, and Nick is going to hate it, but I want to do it.
I don't know that I like movies, to be honest.
No, you just don't like Guillermo del Toro, I guess.
I like Pinocchio. He's Italian.
Whipping out Pinocchio is a wild pick for any Guillermo del Toro movie. You would have picked anyone. You went Pinocchio.
Oh man.
Ciao, Papa. Ciao, Papa.
Ciao, Papa.
Anyway, Ape Sapien.
Enough about Niles Crane.
Exactly. Abe Sapien is a fish man, amphibian creature who he was discovered somewhere that I forget the origins of already, but his name is Abe because he was either found or born the day Abraham Lincoln died. Crazy to maybe they just thought about reincarnation and were like, "Yo, this bitch Abraham Lincoln now."
Yeah. Let's think
So,
good thoughts in choosing this name.
I mean, I do think it is funny in concept, but also for the character makes so much sense because
Yes.
he's just this bookish, like, how can you be a nerd when you live in a fish tank? Abe Sapien will tell you.
Vibes. Yeah.
Reading 4 books
Vibes.
at once every day. And from here, well, he asks Myers, he's like, "Can you turn the pages?" And Myers is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then we find out that he's reading 4 books at once. And Sir Jonathan Hurt comes out, Sir Professor Broom, old
Mhm.
Professor Broom. He is now aged 60 years, which I think the actor that played young Broom looked a little too old because I thought he was like 40
Yeah.
in the beginning of the movie. And then they were like, "Oh, 60 years later." I was like, "There's no way he's 100 years old." So I had to do some mental math when that happened.
Suspend that disbelief.
I
Yeah.
did, but I was
Turns out he was 10 at the time.
Yeah.
yeah, he became a father at 10 years old, is what we're learning.
He said, "Who, if not me, is going to take care of this demon?"
Yeah, yeah.
The father who
only,
stepped up.
only a 10-year-old has the energy to raise a demon.
Honestly, that's kind of true. Maybe that is what happened. Maybe just a really old-looking 10-year-old.
Look, I don't know.
Anyway, um, so Professor Broom introduces himself and introduces Myers to just the concept of there are things that go bump in the night, but we're the things that bump back. That was another runner up for my quote for this, but
Bars.
just bars, but also you getting freaky with it. Bars, but also what do you mean by bump?
Keep bumping on.
Are you getting freaky with the fish man? Or oh no, that's Shape of Water. Sorry. I mean Sound of
How
Music.
did they
Sorry. So Myers is now introduced to the supernatural as a whole. They just kind of throw it at him and are like, "This is your new job. I hand chose you. Here you go." And we meet Agent Clay, which is, I guess, Broom's number one agent in my mind. That's kind of how it felt to me. He's kind of a second in command. And I also thought it was funny that most of the agents are named after like earthy stuff, like clay, stone,
Mm,
and
Mhm.
even Myers, which like Meyer is also,
a lemon.
well, I meant like Mire. But
A hot
close,
dog.
close. uh
A sweeter lemon. That's how I see him now.
good, good. I'm glad. So Clay opens the vault and kind of tells him like, "Hey, good luck. This is your job, your nanny, your babysitter." And Myers is like, "To what?" And then we meet adult Hellboy finally. Now that we are, like I said, 25 minutes into the movie. We meet Ron Perlman as Hellboy. He's lifting weights, smoking a cigar. He's got a shit ton of cats. And
Mhm.
what do we think?
How long did his makeup take every day?
4 to 5 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my that was my main question.
Okay.
I like
I
that
didn't
they Oh, go ahead, Emma.
I didn't realize that in all the like times I've seen Hellboy posters that he was cutting his horns. I just didn't I never thought it through. I like kind of thought not that they were like Frankenstein's like bolts, but that
Mhm.
I think that's how my brain filled it in before I knew the backstory.
That's fair.
Yeah, it just felt like a design choice, but
Mhm.
I do like how they soften him immediately talking about how he's, like, insecure. Um,
Mhm.
they, like
Yeah.
you kinda go into the movie thinking he's gonna be, like, an anti-hero and, like, such a hard character, but they kind of, like they show him as a baby, and then they immediately talk about how he's insecure, so it feels like they are, like, softening him to you immediately.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing hard about him is that right-handed doom, you know? And another thing, um
This movie is a true test of nurture over nature
Yeah,
because he's a softie.
it's it's so cute to just see that he loves cats so much too. It's
Mhm.
such a
Mhm.
fun detail of the character in general, and I also this is a side note, but thought it was so cool that they kept the right hand of doom as the right hand of doom
Yeah.
because they learned that Ron Perlman was left-handed, so they were like, "Oh shit, we don't even have to change anything." So because, like, for stunts and stuff, they would've let him use his dominant hand, and his
Yeah.
dominant hand
Mhm.
is his left hand. And to
Mhm.
that I say, lefties unite, rule the world.
That's why Vin Diesel didn't get the part.
Oh,
Yeah.
so true.
Ugh.
So true.
I again, even in this first scene, I'm so glad that Guillermo del Toro and, Mike Mignola were so passionate about it being Ron Perlman, and they waited for 7 years to get studio approval just for Ron Perlman to get the part because immediately he's so charming and captivating on screen.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. I
Like,
watched
if you put Vin Diesel in that makeup, I'm turning it off. Sorry. Sorry.
there would be nothing he would be all prosthetics and nothing else.
Which is funny considering the only part of Ron Perlman's face that you could see in this is his eyelids.
Okay, I was wondering how much a lot of questions about the makeup because
It's the makeup team on these movies went so incredibly hard. They
they
didn't have to go that
did.
hard.
And I feel like it's still 2004 was a long freaking time ago. Like longer than you really think about and what a weird sentence. Longer than you think. No, it's 20 years. It's
Well,
exactly how you think about it. But it doesn't seem like the makeup. There was obviously some CG stuff that you could tell it was 2004 and like some of the energy was very 2004. But the makeup team, I feel like that could probably come out today and it would still look pretty good.
yeah,
Oh,
I
definitely.
I agree. I in talking about the CGI, to kind of go off track a little here, I think this movie is a testament to how bad CGI is right now in movies and in film because I think it takes away so much from a movie that's otherwise credible. And a movie like this really kind of shows that tenfold because the switching back and forth between practical effects to CGI is so much more seamless than it is today.
Mhm.
And in stuff like scenes like which we'll get to where um there's a subway fight scene, you know, there's shots where it's Hellboy and who Hellboy is fighting, and then it goes into CGI and comes back out, but I'm never like I'm only looking at it like that because I'm so used to picking apart CGI at this point in my life.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it looks so much better to me. It looks so much more real to me. Even
Yeah.
like some of the monsters, I'm like, this is so much more believable than if you made it now.
Yeah. What do you think is an example of a movie today that's doing a bad job with CGI?
I think most of Marvel right now is really suffering from that, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I haven't watched a Marvel movie since Endgame,
Mm.
so I can't speak to any of the new ones, but I believe you.
And which again, I'm a Marvel fan, but I'll also talk a big talk that it's the same way with films like Jurassic World, and it drives me absolutely bonkers because
Mhm.
you built a franchise on things looking and feeling real because for the most part they were, and then you strayed so far from that, it's like we don't even know what it's about anymore.
Well,
So
remember when one of the newer ones, they, like, kept advertising they were going back to practical effects, and then all they made practical was, like, the locusts?
yes, Emma, because we saw that movie together.
I
That
know.
was the one we saw in 4D and almost vomited in the seats.
And then we shortly after made Nixie Avatar in
Avatar.
4D against his will,
Not
and
even me.
especially against Sadie's will.
Sadie, yeah.
First time we ever met Nick's lovely girlfriend Sadie, we made her sit through 4D Avatar.
Yeah, it was 6 days long.
We're still there. We actually never left. It's
This is
purgatory.
part of the 4D experience.
Now, granted, a lot of it was in the water, so it wasn't that violent compared
Yeah,
to
no, it's
other
way
ones.
underwater.
It's fine, fine. It was a lot. But yeah, I think there needs to be a better system for CGI or just more practical effects. I think we've gotten so lazy with it now. I wrote an entire like research paper on this in college, and I'm really passionate about this, but
Go off.
I'm not going to go off too much because we're talking about Hellboy. I got to remember we're talking about Hellboy.
Bonus episode. It's just Kristen alone for 2 hours talking about CGI, reading her research paper.
And one more thing.
Some would argue that's the tism showing. Who's gonna say that? What? Anyway.
It's a filibuster, but it's just about practical effects.
Call me the Cory Booker of CGI, you know?
I have been calling you that for years.
Thank you. And it's always been an insult until now.
It finally paid off.
Oh God. Okay. So we've met Hellboy. We learn that there's a third BPRD member that's Liz Sherman, who is in a mental hospital, I believe. That's what it is. It's some form of hospital institution because she is volatile and she can't control herself, her powers. They don't really explain how she came to be, which I'm assuming they do in the graphic novel, but it's just kind of like, oh, she's a freak who explodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
more like
Hellboy's in
that.
love with her.
They don't give you shit about her.
She's anti-Elsa.
Yeah, she is. She's that little lizard from Frozen 2. The little
I
one
never saw
that's
it.
he lights up on fire. So
I see.
yes.
Yes, I'm on board now.
So Hellboy really wants Liz to come back. We're learning that he sneaks out to go visit her, which they don't want the public seeing Hellboy. It's kind of like a hearsay of whether or not Hellboy exists, which I think is pretty fucking clear Hellboy exists, but they don't want the public seeing him, so they get mad at him every time he goes out.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the Hellboy wiki, Liz Sherman has pyrokinetic abilities. That's what they're calling it.
Mm-hmm.
She blows things up.
She's a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
She's a pyromaniac. Anyway, that's my tagline for this episode. It's just anyway.
Any hoodles.
Who I forgot to mention was Rasputin's sidekick, Hitler's sidekick, the assassin that is kind of alive, kind of undead.
The
He's
Sandman.
the Sandman. He's
Mhm.
quote unquote immortal. He's the I like to call him the transition vehicle from getting our characters from plot point A to plot point B. He's the one who visits Liz in the mental hospital and ends up causing her to have an episode and blow up the hospital, and so that she comes back to the BPRD, and he ends up doing some more stuff, which we'll talk about later, that causes more plot points. But as of right now, we just know him as the freaky assassin guy with the knives. They, him, and I believe her name is Ilsa, who is
Mhm.
the immortal Rasputin lady. They unleash a hellhound named Samael, which I don't know a ton about hellhound lore. Didn't didn't know there were named ones, didn't know. I mean, again, they could be making it all up. But Samael is resurrected from this like big hollow statue, and with the salt of a thousand angels' tears. Very weird detail to me.
Again, weird times to be very specific about things.
Right.
Like, just such strange times that they're like, this is details that needs to be every single page of this book about this hellhound needs to be read and understood
Yeah.
so that you can have it.
And the most important plot point about Samael is that Rasputin resurrects them in the theme of every time you die, two more of you will be born.
Mhm.
And this is classic, like, Hercules Hydra deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But instead of growing two heads, it's two bodies from a frog egg sack somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
Nick, do you need us to stop for a minute?
No, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't know if your AirPods turned off or something. Um. Oh, side question. Is Jeffrey Tambor's character named Manning? Did I get that right?
I genuinely don't know. He's just
I
Jeffrey Tambor in this movie to me.
Thank you.
I think that's right, but I can't confirm
Okay.
100%.
Oh,
Okay.
I
his
can
name's Tom
Google.
Manning. His name's Tom Manning.
Tom Manning. Okay. So Samael comes out, we get the subway fight scene between Hellboy and Samael, which is a great action scene. I
Mhm.
think, like I said, I enjoyed the switchback from the practical effects of a man in a suit as the Hellhound and then to CGI of like moving and fighting. I again think it was very weird for, I mean, not weird, but just a little weird pacing wise, I'll say. The cats that end up being saved in this scene. I think it's important for Hellboy's character. Yes, we learn that he's really compassionate towards cats and compassionate towards animals, let's say.
Mhm.
But the lady whose cats they are, I wanted to smack her. She
Yeah.
only had 2 lines, and I wanted to smack her silly. "No, please. No, who's gonna save my cats?" I'm like, "These 2 have destroyed an entire subway terminal, and you're still worried about the 4 kittens in 1 wooden crate? Uh, what?" It just felt so wild that that was her priority. Like, why'd you put it down in the first place? I don't
So
know.
true. That's on her.
Yeah,
She's
I
one of the
mean,
Go ahead, Nick.
my takeaway from this, and it kinda goes a little bit with the cats too, is that Hellboy gets so banged up, and I don't expect it every time. Like, I kind of expect him to be, like, obviously his arm is stone, and I kind of expect him to just be, like, a tougher material almost.
Mhm.
And, like,
Yes.
he's just bleeding all the time and like getting cut up, and I'm just like everything hurts him, and I'm like, this is not what I expected from this character. I expected him to be like Rock almost, like because I don't know his head, like the horn spots and his arm. It just like is always
Mhm.
shocking to me, and it's just so funny to me that he's like. It's one thing if a hero was like not struggling to be like my cats. He's like
Yeah,
clearly
yeah.
so banged up, like
Right.
and like going through it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
even later in the movie, his little nose cut. I'm like, that really looks like it's hurting you, and it's bleeding
Yeah.
a lot.
a lot,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of blood. But he it's another thing where it's like we learn so much about the Hellhound, and the first one he kills by like just grabbing the third rail and lighting it on fire. And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, I don't feel fire.
It's
The
it's
context
a
comes at the weirdest times.
and it's also like that's a core part of his character. It doesn't feel like you should mention that in a throwaway line.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
like
"Oh yeah, I'm fireproof and you're not."
as an
Yeah.
afterwards explanation.
No.
Right, right. And it's
You
like
look
I
away
feel
for a
like
second, you just don't know that about him.
Uh-huh.
it feels like we should have gotten the write up on Hellboy and we didn't, and we're just kind of going along with it.
Yeah, we got the write up on Will I Am instead.
Oh my god. And I think it's worth mentioning we kind of glossed over the first encounter with Samael, which is when he was released, but he attaches like a parasite to Hellboy,
Mhm.
and even though it's only attached to him for like a few seconds, it lays a couple eggs in his arm. Also, nightmare scenario. That's like a botfly
Horrible.
times a million.
Yeah.
No.
And so from that, we also learn, oh, the eggs need a cool, damp place to live and to thrive, to hatch. So they're like, I got you, the sewers. That's where everything bad happens. The sewers. Which I was also reading somewhere that Guillermo del Toro didn't want there to be a like sewer sequence in this film, but where else were you gonna put it? My guy,
Yeah, what was option 2? What was he pitching?
I love the idea that somebody else was banging the table for the sewers and he was so opposed and somebody was like, there's gotta be sewers, and he's fine. As long as you give me Ron Perlman, we can do the sewers.
Guillermo del Toro
That
is sitting
was
across the
real.
table with his arms crossed, like, no, I don't want it.
Stinky.
Stinky.
Stinky, which is what Hellboy calls Samael. Which I think is hilarious that I know it was mainly to keep a PG-13 rating, but Hellboy is just like you said, he's a big softy. He's not like really cursing or being awful even
Mhm.
to his ops. He's
Yeah.
just kind of doing his job.
Observational comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I don't think I'm skipping over too much here, but we go to the sewers and we find that how the hell do you say assassin's name? Cronin is down there
Mhm.
and he looks horrifying without a mask. I once again had to pause my screen because
Time check.
wow. Time check. Wow, what a time for another reveal.
Yeah.
Because man's got no eyelids, no lips. He's just airing them out. Huh?
Ew.
And
What a terrible way to describe.
I mean, I guess we learned that like is he really breathing? Not really. So I don't know how much of that was needed,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but I don't know why you would choose those things specifically to not use.
Yeah.
It feels a little off to me.
Mhm.
So Cronin is down in the sewers. I guess that's his home base for now. He's tinkering around doing some random shit. And the Samael pit is nest is underwater, and they bring Abe, Hellboy, Clay, Myers, and a few others, and a couple of them end up just like getting picked off by Cronin because again, a knife wielding undead man is always going to win against an FBI agent with a gun. So
Correct.
Yeah, that can
Hellboy,
deflect bullets back at people.
yes, yeah, that's another detail. Just again, how are you aiming? How are you deflecting? And I guess you can get shot, but man, how are you coming out of that unscathed?
Sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't.
I guess that in the sewers, I don't know how much it mattered, but in the museum or wherever, I feel like that mattered
Yeah.
a little more.
Yeah. Sometimes it does. Sometimes he's like, I'm powered up.
So now several BPRD agents are dead, and Abe is hurt by Samael, one of the Samaels, because now we got a whole nest of them. And Abe is okay, he's injured, and Cronin is the one who's killing the agents. And we're finding out that he works like a clock, which this I feel like was a bit of a buildup because we see him, twisting whatever's in his chest in the beginning, and we see him without eyelids and lips. And then once, who does he kill Clay? Who kills Clay? Hey, plot point. Clay dies.
Doesn't matter. We just need to know Clay dies. He's
Clay
gone.
dead.
Oh wait, no. Okay, I'm thinking the right thing. Cronin kills Clay, and then untwists the mechanism that's in his chest and lays down like he's dead next to him, and ends up getting captured and brought back to Professor Broom's lair, vault, whatever BPRD site.
Mhm.
And then we're back there, and Broom and Abe are like almost not taking him apart, but like looking at him and like seeing what makes him tick. And they're like, oh yeah, this guy's been alive since 18 something or other. He's using cogs and gears to keep himself alive somehow. There's no blood in his veins. He doesn't need to blink, eat, or drink. So he's just kind of living on a hope and a dream right now. And so Myers then takes Liz out for coffee. By the way, we've just not talked about Jeffrey Tambor's character, really. That's my fault. He's the director of the BPRD, and he's just kind of there and serves the purpose of, I don't like Hellboy. I don't like what he's doing. I think it's wrong. I want him locked up. And it's annoying, in my opinion. But
Oh yeah.
you need the government voice of reason, I guess, to be your op in this scenario.
The bureaucracy.
Not the main villain, just annoying.
Just annoying, yes.
Inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
So with Liz and Myers out for coffee, Clay's dead, Abe injured. I don't know where he goes at this point, but Hellboy goes out to follow Liz and Myers because he's like, yo, that's my bitch. You don't mess with my bitch.
That's my bottom bitch.
Oh,
My God.
yes. Yeah, it's true.
That's what he said.
So Hellboy's out like jumping rooftops while Liz and Myers are just kind of talking, and I think it's
Mhm.
very much established that he's into her, but I don't really think she was ever into him.
No, because we know nothing about Liz, so there's no way of knowing.
No.
We know absolutely nothing about her. She's there. We know she fling with Hellboy, maybe not fling, maybe they just love each other,
Mhm.
star-crossed, who knows?
Mhm.
And Myers comes in and is like, "Let me take you out." And she's like, "All right, coffee. I wanna get out of here." And Hellboy sees this as an attack on him personally. So
She took his picture. Damn, she took his
she
picture.
took his picture.
She took his picture.
And maybe that's a bigger deal, but we only see, like, a wall of pictures she's taken, one shot, and that's when it's getting burst into flames.
Yeah.
So so that line, like, or just that sequence, you could have said it once and have been done.
There's
Thoughts?
definitely something on the cutting floor for this movie that makes that line really valuable, but
And
they
I don't know
left
what it
that.
is. I don't know, but I think there's a really fun moment during the sequence of Hellboy and the little kid who
Yeah, I loved this.
comes up and is just, like, giving him milk and cookies like he's Santa Claus. And him, like, giving Hellboy relationship advice, and he, like, looks over and he's like, "Kid, you're 9. What like, you shouldn't be telling me this." It's such a sweet exchange, and again,
It
l
is.
Nick, like you said, speaks to him being a big softie, so
Yeah.
It just adds to my confusion of Hellboy's relationship with the outside world because they are on TV, like, actively denying the existence of Hellboy, and then
Yeah,
a
like
kid
he's
sees
Bigfoot.
him. Yeah, but
Mhm.
then a kid sees him and he's like, "Oh, word. Yeah, of course Hellboy's here."
Yeah, no
Like,
fear. Absolutely no fear.
Now,
no even, like, shock.
No.
to be fair, as a younger boy, I feel like it's easier to be chill about something like that
Yeah.
because Hellboy's like if he'll be like, "Yeah, don't tell anyone."
Mhm.
If that were me, oh, I'd be like, "I'm about to make a best friend and not tell anyone about it."
I just think
So,
comparatively to Meyer's reaction to Abe versus this are, like, such a funny juxtaposition of what these things are to people and, like, how the world
yeah.
somehow doesn't know about them even though half these scenes are, like, out in public.
Like, they can see rooftops. Like, someone's in probably a taller building.
Anyone could look up at any moment.
I know they didn't not everyone had smartphone no one had smartphones in 2004, but people had, like, video cameras. Like, if you're seeing this guy jumping from roof to like, you have a second to get your video camera out.
Well,
And
also, the fight between Samael and Hellboy that's, like, out in the streets on Halloween, and Myers goes, "Oh, yeah, fun costumes, happy Halloween." I'm like, "You didn't have to say anything. People could have just assumed."
Yeah,
We could
he
have just assumed.
and that would've been fine until he punched the car over him.
Yeah, because Myers had to go out and run into traffic. What He's the only fully mortal person there. What makes you think going out into oncoming traffic is a good idea?
he
It's
got too brave.
he he got too brave several times in this
He
movie
did.
that I think no rational person would have.
He did. I have a lot of thoughts on, like, the very last shot of this movie when we get there.
Okay, great. I can't
But
wait to hear them.
side note, Selma Blair, I have not seen her in probably anything, actually, if I think about it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Beautiful. S Absolutely like, I just really liked her performance, I thought she was beautiful, and I just know her from QVC, so it was fun to see her
Yeah, yeah.
as a young lady
This is
in a
true.
movie.
I remember seeing her with her dog in the atrium and going, "I should know her from something, and I don't."
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh,
this
yeah.
is that something now.
Yes, she's always one of those actresses that I'm like, "Well, she's famous for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
There's something that she did, and it
I
was this."
will say the face card was probably what got her the contract because
Oh,
her
for sure.
character, like we said, there's nothing there.
No. No, nothing.
nothing.
Don't even think
And
it's her fault. There was just she did not have too much to work with in this
no,
role.
no. It felt like how how is she considered a main character when she's such a I don't know, she's to me not as important in the movie as she should be, or like as it's marketed to be in
Mhm.
all of the promotional material. So
It's
maybe
like
it was just the love story aspect. I don't know.
she's Zoe Deutch and Everybody Wants Some, but with
Oh.
less personality
And fire.
and fire. She,
Instead of a theater kid, she has fire.
she-
She's got that fire in her, baby.
you get to choose one, theater or fire. You don't get both.
Choose
You get one.
wisely.
There comes an age where every girl must.
She's walking down the street, like snapping. I've chosen.
Fire.
5, 6, 7, 8.
She loses all her rhythm. She can't do it anymore. On fire.
So, going back to Hellboy is definitely not eavesdropping on a date with a 9-year-old. No, he's not on a date with a 9-year-old. I'm so sorry.
I
I
missed
need
that scene.
hey, I'm gonna back that up. Myers and Liz are on the date, and the 9-year-old is spectating with Hellboy.
Hellboy, Epstein Island.
Okay, nope, not gonna do that.
Oh
So
my god.
while all this is going on, Cronin is back in the lair with Broom, and Rasputin emerges, let's say, because Cronin wakes up, gets fully dressed. Also, I didn't see his clothes. I only saw his mask. Did he just whip him out of his stitched up body? Or I don't
Spawned him
know.
in.
Yeah, he spawned him in. So he never says anything, but Rasputin does all the talking for him and is kind of like, I need Hellboy to fulfill the prophecy that I brought him here for 60 years ago. And I need him to be in Moscow to open this portal. So killing you is the only way to get him there. And again, lots of detail dumping for them to kill him, or for Cronin to kill him, I should say. Pretty unceremoniously, but I wouldn't expect it to be a big hurrah, even though this is Hellboy's dad. Uh,
Mhm.
uh Papa, Mama, y Papa.
They
But
give they give a hint that it's like gonna be a bigger thing for like a second there. He like hesitates for 1 second and then he just stabs him.
yeah, yeah,
They act
he
like he's
really
like there
does.
might be a thing to it, and then there's no, it just cuts off.
And he says, "Oh, never mind."
JK.
I I'm surprised it took this long into the movie for him to be killed, if I'm being quite honest.
Mhm.
I I feel like the plot point of Broom dying is so pivotal to what the rest of the movie is for Hellboy, and I think there should have been more of it in my mind, but
Mhm.
that's just where my brain went.
Yeah.
I also I didn't mention this before. I think it is very sweet that Hellboy calls Broom dad, papa. Like,
It is.
I think that's so sweet. And like him coming back and seeing him dead, soul crushing. I was
Yeah.
very sad. um, John Hurt in this film, we love him. He he in fact did die from pancreatic cancer, and Broom in this film was dying from cancer, which
Oh.
I think is a little scary, but
Mhm.
so is cancer.
That's true.
Very sad, and he is a great actor. So at this point, Manning takes over BPRD locates Rasputin's mausoleum, and then they go to Moscow.
Wait,
That
can I say
hap-
something about the
Yes.
funeral really quickly?
Yes.
Another scene where how is he not known to just exist in the world when he's just standing above the funeral on, like, is it a building? I can't even remember. Is it an awning?
I thought it was a building.
Probably a building, but he's so sad, but he's so clearly in view. And
I-
then Liz is just like looking up at him, like not that hard, even like her
Yeah.
chin's like not even tilted that
Yeah.
much. He has to be like there, he's not even hiding.
Yeah,
anymore.
like, did nobody have a surveillance camera anywhere? Or
No.
I don't know. Yeah,
Anyway,
he's just
to bring
kind of
it up.
there.
Maybe now that his dad's dead, he's just deciding he can be a public persona now.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little, even though Manning kind of tells him, like, oh, he's reckless, I think he's a little more reckless after his dad is murdered.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
understandably so.
Yes, definitely.
Yep.
So Cronin and Rasputin leave, like, I guess, breadcrumbs to show Hellboy where they're going, and it's to what did I say? Rasputin's mausoleum in Moscow. And getting this happens in the blink of an eye, by the way. We're at the funeral, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're going to Moscow.
Yeah.
And then we're in
Yeah.
Moscow.
Mhm.
So it's real quick.
And
Yeah.
Liz is just like, "Are you still going? I'll go too." And then she goes, one sentence.
She made, like, such a big deal about controlling her powers, not using them, and, like, she has one relapse and she's over the edge. And it wasn't even her fault. Like, it
You
was
like-
incited by Cronin.
You like think there's gonna be this assemble the team moment, and then it's just like, okay,
We're there.
Well,
team
to
assembled.
be fair, the team is only really those three, Manning and Myers.
Yeah.
So,
There's no like suiting up moment. Like they're just there.
I just thought there
'cause-
might be some like, I don't know, a team bonding activity of some kind.
Yeah, I guess.
Team building.
That
So
was all the hours in the makeup chair together.
They do an escape room or something nice.
Oh my
Aw.
god. Well, no,
We
they
should
do
do
the
one.
escape room coming up.
I would love they do, yeah. I'd love to see a happy hour here.
Ooh. That would be fun. Honestly. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I want to do an escape room now. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. An escape room or a rage room. I would love to do either.
I've never done either. I'd like to do both.
Both. Both.
Not
is good.
axe throwing though, because I'm too afraid of it bouncing back at me.
You're far enough away.
No, you don't know. You don't know how strong I am.
Okay. Noted.
know how hard
Don't
I'll
take
throw
Emma axe throwing.
I'm too strong.
Okay.
You know how close I'm gonna get.
I'm gonna stand 2 feet from the target. All right, I'm ready. So, Hellboy, Manning. Is Abe with them? I feel like he's not.
He
Right?
can't be. Right. Oh no, he can be. For a second I was like, he can't leave water, but he can.
No, he has that fun little water helmet.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
I think he's still injured.
Hurt. Yeah, I think
Yeah, I don't remember him being there at all.
I'm
think I
so
would've remembered him.
surprised how little screen time he had in this film. So he's not there because I was wondering, like, did Doug Jones like get a paycheck for this movie? I was like, hold on a minute. And so their team is now in the cemetery, and they're like, how the hell are we gonna find Rasputin's mausoleum? We don't know. Hellboy goes, why don't I ask for directions? He reanimates a corpse, takes half of it onto his back, and starts walking it around. His name is Ivan something or other. I can't remember. Or Ivan, the way Ron Perlman says it. And he's a old Russian guy that tells him where Rasputin's mausoleum is. They take him with him as a talking backpack. And I I
Very Dora.
yeah, I need to know, how the fuck could they not tell which mausoleum was Rasputin's? Because we cut to a shot of the biggest goddamn mausoleum I've ever seen in my life. You're telling me Hellboy needed directions to the biggest building in this cemetery? Huh?
All of them.
Wild guess.
All of them needed it because they were all very confused when they first pulled up. They were like, "Where are we gonna go?"
They're just, like, meandering around in the snow. I'm like, "You saw that building and you said, 'Can't be that one.'"
Surely someone more famous is in there.
I I don't know. And they find out there's, like, tunnel systems and everything just because, Yvonne says so. Hellboy's like, "Yeah, he's telling me there's a whole network of tunnels and everything down here." I'm like, "I don't know if the mummy needed to tell you that."
It was a good, Ron Perlman impression, though.
Thank you. They go into the mausoleum and almost immediately, Scooby-Doo style, get split up right after Hellboy says, "The best thing we can do is stay together." And they're forced to go deeper into this labyrinth because that is what it is.
Mhm.
It is so big underground, and Hellboy ends up going with Manning, and I forget his other name, but he's like a not very important agent that we've seen maybe once before this.
Mhm.
He's this non-important agent is carrying Yvonne, and they're walking across this comically tall and large bridge in the middle of nowhere, in this mausoleum. And that is when Manning decides to push his weight around and go, "No, I'm in charge. I'm not afraid of you, Hellboy. You listen to me. I think we should go back. I think we should go out instead of going further in." And it's it's a moment, like, I get why it's there again, but I don't think we really needed the "This is where I'm putting my foot down" at that very moment.
Yeah,
It could have just happened without any, it could have just been where they stepped, you know?
yeah,
It could have happened at any point
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah.
it's so much build up to it. Um, I was so distracted by how beautiful this scene was.
Okay, me too, me too.
It felt like we entered a new movie. I mean, there's a lot of great shots in this movie, but it's a whole different vibe, and I was just, like, obsessed with every shot they take here.
It's
Um,
the color grading immediately changing when they get to Russia is such a bold move, and I was so happy with it.
it's like the first 20 and the last 20 of this movie are their own films,
Yeah,
which
Yes.
yeah,
that
it's
I
true.
love that I love with a movie I only like in the middle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair, that's fair. And, comic relief style, let's say, a giant hammer comes out of nowhere and blasts unimportant guy and even Ivan, whatever, off the side of the bridge, destroys half the bridge. We have no way of getting back. And all of a sudden, Manning's like, "Okay, yeah, I'm on your side. You tell me what to do. Let's go."
Mhm.
And Hellboy, again, shows that he is a passionate creature
Mhm.
because he saves Manning when he sees that the door is closing in front of them, and like lets him go first and ends up like almost getting hit by another hammer.
Mhm.
They go through again. This looks like the labyrinth, the one scene like where David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly are like running on stairs around each other.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
this reminded me of.
There is one part here where he is, like, so clearly attached to a wire, and the ground just isn't below his feet that he's running on.
Yes, I noticed that he's, like, pushing off as they're
Yeah.
falling, and I'm like, "You're not getting any friction from this."
It's
Hell Hellboy operates on moon gravity on the Earth.
That Okay, I'm glad you guys noticed that too, because I was like, they're already gone. He should be going.
It's like they had to have noticed it and been like, ah,
But it's
we ran out
cool.
of
It's
time.
fine. No one
Yeah,
Yeah.
cares.
yeah.
I got really concerned when they were walking through the spiked hallway.
Oh,
That
and he goes, because he gets cut.
I thought there was going to be a little more closing in, but really, I guess if there was, they would just be dead. They didn't have much space in there to
Yeah.
begin with. But that was
Yeah.
just for fun. Like nothing came out of that spiked hallway.
Yeah.
Well, Cronin was at the end of that hallway, right?
No, like nothing happens. Like it doesn't close. Like
Oh,
nobody gets
oh,
killed
okay,
or
okay.
anything from it.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Yes. Um,
Cronin's hallway.
Cronin's hallway, fight, whatever. They defeat him.
I'm so happy. I was so happy to see that guy dead.
I was
Yeah.
sitting on my couch alone going,
Hot take, I didn't like that Nazi.
and the sad part is now you have to say it's a hot take. So
Whoa.
another part of the reason I thought this movie is topical to do now. Oops.
So true.
Also very like this is such a great scene because one, you get to see that guy dead, and two, finally Jeffrey Tambor is kind of like likable at this point in the movie. Finally,
They're
where
finally
he's-
on the same page.
yeah, he's turned the corner a bit here. And yet again, no payoff for that.
No.
He just becomes likable, and then you never really.
We don't
not
do
much
anything
to him
with
after
that.
Again,
No.
I feel bad that I haven't seen Hellboy 2 here to make a reference to it, but I don't even know if he's in it for that payoff. Or
I
that
do
was a
believe
setup.
he is.
So maybe it's a setup for him being a more likable character in the second one, but it's just such a funny way for his character to just be like, and now he's kind of chill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It is so weird for it to just be like, oh, flip of a coin. He's all right now. We like him.
Yep. With his
Chill,
little
dude.
fingy cut and then Hellboy's little nose cut.
Oh my god, yeah, the two of them are quite the pair with that. That's all they get from defeating Cronin is the little cuts.
He was upset about that finger cut too. He brought it up. He brought it up after the fact.
It's
And
it's
said,
pretty deep.
"Steam."
And then he gets like cut on the leg immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
And he said, what did he say? He's when he got like sliced out with the knife, his response was so like someone cut him in line at the store. Like
It was like, who do you think you are, or something
he
like
was
that.
like, why did you do that? Who do you think you are?
yeah.
And I was like, what did you think this person was gonna do?
Yeah.
Just say hi to you? Like it was such a minimal response.
Yeah. I didn't love Jeffrey Tambor's performance of this movie as much as I guess could have, but I don't think he's a big enough character for me to really need to like or dislike him.
To
Yeah,
quote
it's
Kiki
just,
Palmer, I don't know who this man is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know who this Manning is. Thoughts? Okay, never mind. Never mind. So, Liz and Meyer find the Samael nest part 2, and they're kind of like, oh, well, they have a third guy with them, and he gets torn apart immediately, of course. So Liz is like, oh my god, Hellboy, I need you, and he punches his way through the ceiling to get to them, which is, I love when he just punches through walls. I think that's great.
Mhm.
Great character development for him is just, he's always punching through walls.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He protects them from the Samaels, Samayam, and she ends up using like her powers to fully incinerate all of them at once, because they're like, if we kill them, they're just going to come back twice as many. And this is incited by Myers hitting her. and he does not hit her that hard. I'm gonna be completely
No.
honest. And I get it. I get it. She's a lady. She's a lady he likes, but I mean, you know what she can do, and if she's asking you to hit her, smack her silly. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. You could close that hand, I think.
Right up the middle.
Hey, make it an uppercut. You know what I mean?
Because she would have said slap me if she meant slap me.
Right. She said hit me.
She said hit.
She was quite literally asking for it.
At least go with the backhand.
Yeah. But she does end up incinerating all of the Samaels, which then leaves us Rasputin and Ilsa, who end up capturing Hellboy, Myers, and Liz, and she's on a sacrificial table for some reason. I don't think she needed to be, quite seriously, but Hellboy's in chains and Myers is in chains. He's all like bloody, and Hellboy is like, don't do this. It's like very fairy tale book last scene here for me. And I'm not complaining, but Hellboy ends up starting to open the portal because Rasputin takes or threatens to take Liz's soul, and he ends up taking it. So she's fully dead, and he ends up unlocking the locks because Rasputin's like, you can go over to the other side and get her and bring her back. And he's like 2/3 of the way through, and Myers breaks out of one of his chains, picks up I guess it's a rosary that was Professor Broom's, and gives the most half-hearted, like, remember who you are, dude. You don't have to do this speech.
There goes my quote for the end of the pod.
I really, again, it was another pause moment for me because I was like, is this how we're doing this? It's like, this is really what we're doing? And maybe it wasn't as common in 2004, but it feels very overdone now.
The power of Christ. The power of the Lord.
He sorry, it made me so angry in the moment that I really had to sit and
it's just like the end of every Conjuring movie.
Yeah, it's just like, but you don't have to.
The power of Christ really compels him here.
Yeah.
Power of Hellboy 3, The Conjuring.
Oh.
I would watch that crossover.
So I think it's also worth noting that the right hand of doom is like one of the most powerful objects in all of fiction, and it's really kind of downplayed in this movie because he's about to like release the gods, I guess, but it can do so many things, and like whether or not it's attached to him doesn't really matter. It could be used by anyone and be as powerful as it is by anyone's hand, but it is like a part of him. I think it's really kind of downplayed in this film, but whatever.
I didn't feel the stakes that much of this ending. Like I just knew it wasn't gonna happen. You know what I mean? I just knew he was gonna save the day. Which I know is not unheard of, but I just didn't feel the stakes of the
Yeah, I feel like Rasputin's motivations are so shaky.
Yeah.
That it makes me feel like there's no world in which he's gonna win because you don't even know what the benefit or the goal is for him. Like, you kinda get the vision at one point, but it's just like a hellscape, so it's like, why?
Yeah.
What
Like, what's the benefit for you?
Yeah, what are we like, for it to be even a possible outcome in your head that you're like, "Oh my god, this might actually happen," you'd have to feel like I don't know, there was some reality in which it was good for somebody. It's like, then you can be like, "That character wins."
Yeah,
Does
I've
he
heard
feel like if he gets his outcome, he wins? Like,
Imagine.
I agree.
Yeah, and we end up defeating Rasputin, but Rasputin then spews a tentacled god monster because it is within him. Even though the
Mhm.
portal wasn't opened, he like brought it back with him somehow. He makes that like comment when he's talking to Professor Broom before he kills him. It's like,
Mhm.
it's running through my veins, and there's very clearly like CGI going through his veins of like something moving around in there.
Yeah.
And it's this big tentacled monster that Hellboy ends up getting eaten by, but because he has a string of grenades that Myers gave him, he ends up blowing it up from the inside out about 2 seconds after being eaten and fighting it.
Mhm.
And that's really it for the big bad fight. It's over. The- People are Some people are alive, some people are dead. Do we know whether or not Hellboy is real in this world? I don't really know.
Kristen,
It just kind of ends.
did you play Elden Ring?
No, but I've watched playthroughs of it.
This is, like, really the way he's, like, fighting this feels like such an Elden Ring boss battle, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and, I mean, it makes sense based on, like, what the lore is and everything, but it just, like, really felt like one, and then but my big, like, takeaway and, like, confusion here is kind of something I've had throughout the movie in that it's like, what causes damage to Hellboy if he can just go into this thing's mouth and blow up all these grenades, and it's like, okay, he's fire resistant, but these are, like, explosions, and that's force more than it is
Yeah.
fire, so it's like, what gives? Because some things just, like, really fuck him up at times, and then other
Mhm.
things just, like, don't phase him. Like, he kind of walks away from
Mhm.
this, like, he's pretty banged up, but he's not, like, extraordinarily banged up for something that just blew up this, like, giant god monster.
Yeah. I think it's very much a comic book slash graphic novel adaptation thing because there's so much that you have liberty with a
Yeah.
comic, and
Mhm.
you're immediately asked to put so much more logic into it when it becomes a film.
Yeah.
And I feel like
100%.
this is really the result of something like that
Mhm.
because in a graphic novel I wouldn't be questioning it for a moment, but now I'm like, so what's the statistics of what actually hurts Hellboy and what doesn't? I don't
Yeah, yeah.
understand.
Mhm.
So yeah, but I agree there was points where I was like, how come this hurts him and how come this doesn't?
Yeah.
And also, how come he can whisper Liz back to life, but he doesn't bring his dad back to life? You know, it's like those kind of things where
I
it's
didn't even
not
think about that.
right, right. You're like, oh, Liz is back within like 2 seconds, and it was because he whispered sweet nothings into her ear on the other side and brought her back. But
Mhm.
when dad's gone, he's gone forever? Huh? I
Maybe
don't
it's
get
'cause
that.
just her, like, soul was taken from her and the dad was actually stabbed. Is there something there?
I'm gonna
I
commit I'm gonna commit to doing this bit at least once a podcast now, but he literally whispered in her ear, he's like, "No, don't die, you're so sexy."
We didn't even get to see her boobs.
And he couldn't say that to his dad, unfortunately.
Yeah,
No.
that's true. Mm. Yeah, there are a lot of plot holes, but again, I think the charm of the film itself kind of outweighs them at times. It's
Definitely.
just when you're doing
Mhm.
something like we're doing and like being forced to dissect it, we're like, so what we doing here, gang?
Mhm. Here's my
Where's the
Yeah.
issue
logic?
with the end.
Do it.
Myers.
Yeah.
Why does he watch them make out the whole time?
Oh my
He doesn't turn
god.
away. His eyes are locked. And that's how the whole movie ends. Like he never leaves and it just fades to black.
And also, he's voicing over at the end? Just like
Yeah,
a random time to start with voiceover. The last
I had to
30
check
seconds of
whether
the
he was
movie.
talking. I was like, "Wait, his mouth's not moving," and it is a really weird time to do a voiceover. Just the last few seconds of the film.
You have 2 hours to include it, and then you include it in the last minute.
Yeah, thinking about it kind of feels insane, but do you think, when they go to hotels if they go to hotels, Hellboy and Liz get the bed and Myers gets the cook chair?
Culture.
Do you think it's like that kind of scenario or what?
I mean, at different points throughout the movie, different people were in the cuck chair.
So, in short and long, that was Hellboy. What overall did we think of it? Give me did you like? Did you think meh? Did you not like? What would you watch it again?
My honestly, I feel pretty similarly as I did going in about this movie. There are certain moments that really impressed me more than I had remembered or thought this movie could, and like we said, like, that bridge scene is just, like, so impressive. And
Mhm.
there are certain times where it gets to that point, but it feels like it's, like, pulled in too many directions at times, and it doesn't really hit its like, what's great about this movie doesn't really always shine through and, like, throughout the whole movie.
Mhm.
Um, but it is an incredibly there's a reason people still enjoy this movie to this day.
Mhm.
2 decades later for what it is, it's crazy that it still holds up so well because it's charming in a way that's not necessarily important to the story or even like we talked about the shots, it's like the characters are really great. And mostly Hellboy himself is just such a great character.
Mhm.
Uh, that there's never a time where I won't enjoy this movie. I don't think there will be a time where I'm gonna be in the near future where I'm gonna be like, I gotta get back to Hellboy. But
Mhm.
I also like if somebody's putting it on and I'm around it, I'm always gonna sit down and be down for this movie.
Right. Right. That's a very fair take. I I feel similarly in a lot of what you said in that I think Guillermo del Toro, as a filmmaker in general, tries to do so much with his concepts from the way it looks to the way it sounds, etc., etc. I think sometimes he spreads it too thin and takes it, like you said, in too many directions. And I
Yep.
think you saw that at points here, but I really did enjoy I enjoyed the source material, I enjoyed the main character, and I enjoyed like I said, the practical effects really kept me, um, kind of enthralled this whole time.
Yeah.
I would definitely watch it again. I wanna watch the second one now because now I'm invested.
It definitely did make me wanna watch the second one, and like you said, the practical effects add to that stands the test of time element so well because
Yeah.
you've talked about it at length, but we don't get it anymore, and it's just
Mhm.
like it was part of the charm of, like, the Dungeons& and Dragons movie had really good practical effects,
Hmm.
and it just, like, felt like it was so refreshing,
Yeah.
and, like, even if it doesn't I mean, it does look better, but even if it doesn't, it adds such a charm to movies
Yep.
that I feel like holds up so much better than just, like, trying to, like, blow you away with CGI, like, huge CGI scenes that are, like, at
Mhm.
a certain point, 1, oversaturated, and 2, just, like, removing you from the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's so overdone in film today that going back and watching a film like this makes you appreciate what well done practical effects can do.
Absolutely.
I think oh, Emma told us that her hottest was Myers.
Oh, that's a take.
And I think that's certainly a take. I don't know if it's a take I have, but
Yeah, it's not a hot take. It's not a great take. I mean, I don't know where you're at. I thought we were all gonna be Liz.
Mm,
Um, but I mean, I just thought that was a very like the movie was kind of leading you to that answer.
yeah, yeah.
Like she is the one and only love interest of this movie. So, I mean, my answer is Liz.
Yeah. And listen, my answer is 1000% Hellboy.
Hellboy.
It
Yeah.
is. I I think you could put him staring at me dead in the eyes for 2 hours, and I would have said, "That's all I wanna see. That is the hottest man alive."
But not the comics because they never get the eyes right.
No. No, they don't. I again, it speaks to the makeup department, it speaks to, I guess, Ron Perlman, but his 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 essence as a person and as an actor also really shines through
Yeah.
here, and that in itself is attractive and makes the character more attractive,
Mhm.
which I really like. But who am I to deny a non-human attractive man? You know?
I love that Guillermo del Toro watched this movie and was like, you know who's the hottest in this movie? Abe.
Mhm, mhm.
He made this
He's
movie and was like, I could fuck that.
he said, "Why don't I fuck the fish?"
He's like he's like, "Hey, someone's gotta do it. Someone's
If
gotta fuck
anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be me. I respect him for it. And
that."
listen, if this were The Shape of Water, I would also have that take. But there's
He
no
made
Hellboy in Shape of Water.
he made himself right.
He
Um,
did.
I think I think Ron Perlman is just has so much face.
Yeah,
His face is huge. It's not even a bad thing or a good thing, it's just he has a giant face.
yeah. I I'm going to sound mean, and I'm not going I don't intend to. Ron Perlman has what I would think is the, like, Neanderthal, eyebrow?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, the protruding brow over the eyes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't find that attractive, but people here will be like, "Well, they slapped a bunch of makeup on him, and he doesn't have white hair, so."
Yeah, he's got
I
the Cro-Magnon look.
Right, right, I mean, it's a lot of prosthetics too, but
Yeah, yeah.
if you were to ask me, like, off the street, is Ron Perlman hot? I probably wouldn't say yes, but as Hellboy, 1000%.
Hellboy is just he's the best boy too.
Yeah, Hellboy, best boy.
Sweetest boy. That's a way
I
different movie, they just name him the sweetest boy.
and here's the sweetest boy you'll ever meet,
I do
Hellboy.
I do love his little tail.
Oh my god, it's so cute. I don't
Adorable.
it's like a cat, which makes sense, but is also just so sweet.
There's a little slit in his trench coat for it to
Just swanging. Just swanging. I I don't love it when he has, like, the full horn look. Doesn't
Mm.
do it for me.
Yeah, it changes the character completely.
It does. It's more minotaurish than anything else to me in that moment.
Yeah, all of a sudden he becomes, like, super not human.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm okay with the more human version. Yeah, I don't know if we're doing food or not for this episode.
Emma's doing pancakes,
Okay, Emma is making pancakes for this episode, so stay tuned for that.
which leads us beautifully to my quote. Just what was it that landed you this job pushing pancakes, huh?
Your pancakes, sir. Alrighty. See you next week.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye from Emma.